What's up? My name's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about what I read during Contemporary-A-Thon. I know I didn't do a TBR for Contemporary-A-Thon, and that's because I literally decided to do Contemporary-A-Thon the day it started. I will, however, say that surprisingly I kept my TBR very well. I'm usually like terrible with TBRs because I like never read what's on them, but I did this time. I'm very proud of that. I'm just gonna So if you don't know what Contemporary-A-Thon is, it's a week-long readathon where you read contemporary. There were 7 challenges to this round and I completed all of them, and now I shall take you through them. The first book that I finished for Contemporary-A-Thon was The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. This isn't necessarily a contemporary, but it does have a very contemporary type story and contemporary like characters, and I was already reading it when the readathon started, so I just decided to include it. It's about a guy named Michael, and he lives in a town where like the chosen one thing keeps happening. So their town, like over its history, has experienced like god, vampires, zombies, and now they, but Mike's group isn't directly involved with that. They're just sort of like on the outside, and it sort of looks at how the events of that chosen one plot affect their life. I don't know, at the start I found his narration to be very tedious, but as it went along I actually started enjoying it a lot more. At the start of each chapter it sort of like has a paragraph explaining what's going on in the chosen one plot. I'm not sure how I felt about that aspect to it. I think maybe if we just sort of seen it play out along the side, that would have been a bit better. I also wasn't sure if the like fantastical elements were necessary to the story until about halfway through, and I was like, you know what, no, this really wouldn't work without those elements. I like bought this years ago, like when it first came out, and I started reading it and I wasn't like too sold on it, so this was also just like another try, and I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I just thought it was, like, I wouldn't say it was amazing, but it was very enjoyable and it was a very good read. And this book I chose for a hyped book. The second book that I read was Losing It by Julia Lawrenson. This is a book about 4 girls in their final year of high school who make a sort of virginity pact to lose their virginity before like the end of school celebration. Abby, Marla, Bree, and Zoe are our main characters, and they each have like a chunk of the book, so like 50 or so pages, where they talk about like how like their sexual encounters play out and like everything that leads up to it. It's not just about the sex for them, it's a lot about like what's led them to like take part in this, and how that like affects them, how it affects their friendships, and how it affects their family as well. In terms of female friendship, you don't really get a lot of them interacting with each other during the book, except for at the start and at the end, and I actually kind of like that because it sort of showed like who they are as people by themselves, and then later on it showed like how they work as friends. I wasn't sure about it at the start, but I ended up like really enjoying it. I especially loved Abby's part of the story. I just thought hers was the most impactful out of all 4 of them. There were a few things I didn't like about it, and it's mostly to do with like the post-writing process, because I can tell that a lot of it has happened in editing. Basically, this book is set in Western Australia, which is where I'm from, and I didn't know that until like the very end. The reason I didn't know all the way through is because, first of all, they the end of year celebration that they're talking about is called Schoolies in the eastern states, but in our little like town, city over here, it's actually called Leavers, so I didn't like piece that together. I knew it was an Australian book, I didn't know it was a West Australian book. And also we didn't start putting year 7s in high school until 2010, I believe, so they start year 7 in high school, but then there's a passage where Marla's talking about how she was starting high school and she was 13, which she would have been in year 8 then, so they wouldn't have started high school until 2007 in year 8. So that was like just a couple of things that I didn't like about it, but it doesn't necessarily like take away from the quality and the message that the book sends. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and the challenges I used it for was pink on the cover. The next book I picked up was One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and I got 32 pages through before I decided I wasn't going to continue with this one. I was really excited for this when it came out. Sort of like Breakfast Club meets murder mystery, and I was like super excited for it. And then I started reading it, and there were a lot of problems that I had. The first was that it like flicks between perspectives in the same chapter, and all the perspectives are first person. So you have the 4 characters of Bronwyn, Cooper, Nate, and Addie, who are like narrating it in first person, and you can't like tell them apart. There's no different narrative voice between the characters. That really bothered me. Second thing, there wasn't like much suspense coming. Like, it wasn't as dark as I was expecting so early on. I thought it was like a gruesome murder, but it's not, and blah blah blah, that sort of thing. The other thing was that I had already guessed like everything that was going to happen in this book by page 33. If you're like going for like a suspenseful thriller, you don't want someone to be able to figure it out at page 33. Like, and I know I got it all right because I went and I watched like spoiler-free reviews on YouTube. I didn't think this was the right book for me. Maybe other people will enjoy it, but I just didn't like it. I'm never going to pick this up again until my unhaul video later in the year. I'm just not ever interested in finishing this off. I have heard that it does have some very good like sisterly friendships and like just friendship in general, but I don't think that the payoff for that is worth the effort I'm going to have to put into this to keep going. I picked up this book for the challenge of a dark or taboo contemporary, and probably took that off, so I'll come back to that dark taboo thing a little bit later. DNF, goodbye. Okay, I'm gonna pick that up now. The next book that I picked up was The Hating Game by ashleyyfriend. This book is about Lucy, who works as a assistant to one of the CEOs of a publishing company, and basically her hatred / sexual flirtation with Josh, who is the assistant to the other CEO of the publishing company. And they hate each other, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this book on YouTube before. Basically, it's a hate-to-love relationship. There are some steamy scenes. I actually like really enjoyed this. There are a couple of things where I'm like, a little bit problematic, like problematic fave. I just think he was like a little too jealous, maybe a little bit too controlling of Lucy, but in the end they got together and they're happy, and I actually really did enjoy this one. You can look past some of the questionable aspects if you just keep in mind that this is a romance and it's not there to like tell you what type of relationship you should be in. It's there to like make you like feel things. Hating Game, 4 out of 5 stars. And this is the challenge, a book that was recommended to me. The next book that I read was Wanderlust by Jen Malone. This is a story about Aubrey, who is 17. She's never really like left her hometown. She hasn't gone on holiday anywhere. She hasn't really like spent the night away from home before, and she is having like an end of year party after graduation, and her sister comes home, and then like a whole bunch of things happen, and basically her sister gets arrested, so her sister can't go to her summer job of like leading a senior citizen tour around Europe. And so to make sure that she still gets her job working in the governor's office, she sends Aubrey instead. And okay, there are a lot of like questionable things that happened in this book. There were a lot of things that shouldn't have happened, that would never have happened if it was like, you know, like a real life thing. There were a lot of like really questionable decisions in all of this, and also like just a lot of like bizarre things. Like she, like a whole like point of the story is that she leaves her phone and her binder on the plane, whereas like in real life we all know that like someone would find that and like bring it to Lost and Found like straight away. Like, despite the fact that it had some like really questionable points, it was just like a feel-good like teen romance with like this really cute boy that ends up on her tour because he is the owner's son. It was a little bit predictable, but like I don't care. Like, it made me feel like happy when I was reading it, and it was like a good journey of like self-discovery and etc. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I just enjoyed it. And this book covers the pink on the cover, but I picked it for the most recent contemporary that I acquired. So the third to last book that I picked up was The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This is a book that is about Grace, Rosina, and Erin, and they are like 3 girls who are sort of like on the fringes of like society in their school. It sort of found a feminist movement to like get justice for a girl called Lucy Moynihan who was at their school but was run out of town after accusing 3 quite prominent members of their school community of gang rape. And this was like a really impactful read. I just thought that it was like relevant, topical, it was extremely diverse. Grace is a fat preacher's daughter, Rosina is a Mexican lesbian, and Erin has Asperger's. So you got your diversity like pretty jam-packed into that. It's like says a lot about like rape culture and like sexual assault. There are a few teensy tiny issues I had with this book. Sometimes it felt very like lectury and info dumpy, and like I appreciate that it's like a heavy topic and those kind of things like need to be said, but I just think it didn't fit with like the characters themselves kind of thing. One thing I really did like about it was the Asperger's representation. For those of you who don't know, I actually have a very good friend with Asperger's and I used to live with him, and from what I can gather, a lot of Erin's character is like accurate to having Asperger's. Like there are a few things that she mentioned that I've also heard him talk about, like not like wanting to be touched, like being very logical, like the texture of things. I did find Erin's representation to be very realistic. It's not on voices, but like from what I can tell, there is like a very good rep behind that, but maybe like someone who is on voices can like jump in and correct me on that if it's not like a thing. I am rambling now. I hate doing wrap-ups because I always ramble. This is the fifth book that I finished for the readathon, and I chose it to cover a diverse read, but I also doubled up to do a dark and taboo topic because I got rid of One of Us Is Lying, so I couldn't use that one. Also, you should like totes read this if you haven't already. It's important. The next thing that I read was Misfits City Volume 1. This was written by Kiwi Smith and some other people with the last names Lusgarten, Franquiz, and Pierre. This is about a girl named Wilder, who's this one here, and she's sort of bored of her town. Like it was the set for a movie called The Bloomies, which is like subtle reference to the Goonies. Her and her friends are also bored with it, and then they find a treasure map, and they decide to follow the treasure map to find the treasure. It was just like, it was like a really cool story about like girlfriends hanging out with each other and like having fun. It's got some diverse characters in it, and it's got, I really enjoyed this one. I'm hesitant to say I'm gonna love the series because it, like, the first volume of anything is really just an introduction. So I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars, and this was for the challenge read, a contemporary-ish graphic novel. And those were the exact words, and I'm gonna say it's contemporary-ish because there was a little bit of a funny business going on. It's so weird not wearing glasses in my videos. Like, do I look strange to you? Like, I don't think I've ever filmed a video without my glasses on. And it feels weird. I keep like going to push them up and they're not there. The last book that I picked up for Contemporary-A-Thon was The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This is about a girl called Alexa, who is this lovely lady right here, and she is living in Berkeley and she travels into San Francisco to visit her sister, who has just been made partner at a law firm. And it's also about Drew, which is this guy right here, and he is a doctor who works in Los Angeles, and he's come up to San Francisco for a wedding. And they end up being stuck in the elevator together for a few minutes, and he decides to invite Alexa as his +1 to his ex-girlfriend's wedding to his best friend. So it's a fake dating romance, and things just kind of progress from there. I will say it was a little, like, things happened, like, too soon, I think. Like, the real, like, things happening between them, like, it's over within the first 100 pages, and then it's just sort of like a long distance relationship from there. Didn't like entrap me for too long, which is really hard because I was trying to finish it before midnight on Sunday, and I was about 5 minutes off on that, so a little awkward, and there were some points where I was just like, do I have to read this? I did think about like putting it down and never picking it up again a few times, because I knew where it was going. Like, they were gonna have like a big fight and break up, and then he was gonna like make a grand gesture, and I mean, that's pretty much what happened. So, I mean, you know, it could have been better. It was diverse, 3 out of 5 stars, and this covered diverse, and I also like got it halfway through the week, so I doubled up on the most recent contemporary that you got, because I doubled up one book for 2 challenges. So does that make sense? I'm gonna go like through all these with that information right now, but I have 5 minutes left on this video before it stops, so let's do that now. So for a hyped contemporary, I read The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Neff. For a book with pink on the cover, I read Losing It by Julia Lawrenson. For a dark or taboo contemporary, I tried reading One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. For a book that's been recommended to you, I read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This was recommended as part of the like readathon by Chelsea Dolling Reads, because I don't know any people that read in my life, so it's a little sad. For the most recent contemporary you acquired, I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory and Wanderlust by Jen Malone, because I both got them this week. Got them both this week. For a contemporary-ish graphic novel, I read Misfits City Volume 1, and for a diverse read / a dark or taboo contemporary, I read The No More Girls by Amy Reed. So this is what I read for Contemporary-A-Thon this week. Let me know what you read down below, or if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, and I will see you on my channel next time. Bye!